Ready? Good morning. We have a great group here. I think we're all ready to go. So we are going to get started. Good morning, good morning. So as we start this meeting this morning, I just wanted to do a quick reminder that this is not a council meeting, this is a workshop. And so we have a really full agenda this morning. I appreciate all the work that's gone into this. And Vanessa, thank you for organizing and putting the PowerPoint together for us all and for all the food. Really appreciate. Thank you to finance and to all the teams for their work as we get ready to go. So this morning, we've got a really quick agenda, and I realize I don't have the clicker. Are you going to click for us? Thank you. So our order this morning, we're going to kick off with the mayor's office, and I am going to be really, really short. We're going to email you guys this PowerPoint just because we have 7 different groups to go through, which is a lot, and there's some really important stuff in here. We're going to start with the mayor's office. We're going to move to clerks, HR. It's not the order on your sheet. So it's the mayor's office, then we're going to go to the clerk's office, HR, IT, finance. We're going to talk Gen Gov, and we're going to end with facilities. So just a reminder, all of our teams know you have a maximum of 10 minutes. We'll probably save questions till the end and see how much time we have, because if we get stuck on one department, we won't get to the end. So we are going to move very quickly this morning. So we're going to start with the mayor's office, and I am not going to go through all of our detail, but let's go to the next slide. And I'm going to say our tagline is the one that we adopted some time ago, and it was really what drives us. We're going to be a safe and healthy community where people prosper. And we can go to the next slide. So we're missing one position here. This is our team, and our citizen support specialist is not listed here because that is an open position that we're currently hiring for. Jonica from our office, I was going to say sitting here, she's not, but I see the HR team. She is moving over to HR. They had a position open, and she applied for that. Her degree is actually in HR, and she was looking forward to, excuse me, getting to use her degree. And so we kind of pulled Kim from HR, and one of ours went to HR. So, you know what? You know, professional growth opportunities are really important. And so we've provided that opportunity, and we have a great working relationship, and it's all good. So you can move forward. This is our org chart. I'll say this now, since you're looking at the org chart. It's the slide at the end. We do not have any new positions this year. And that's one reason why. Our budget, you're going to see, is pretty much the same. The only difference is we've changed the Director of Procurement and Risk Management, which is Rick Kennedy. You guys met him the other night, and he's here this morning. That's the position Catherine was in that was doing legal and risk management. And so Catherine's actually filling in and helping us right now, but she's no longer a full-time employee with our office. So that is the same position. You'll see just wage change is the only change that is there. There aren't any new positions. So the mayor's office goals, you see everyone have their goals with each slide. That the template is consistent throughout the day. Our goals are actually reflected throughout the entire city because we're driving that goal piece, and we can go ahead and move forward. We do have our main goals, and I'm not going to read each one of these, and I'll let you just quickly click through. Maintaining a safe and healthy community. Okay, let's say that again. Maintaining a safe and healthy community, creating economic opportunity, excellence in city government, and improving movement in and through Nampa. Those are very high-level goals. You see those goals reflected throughout every single department. And then underneath that, you see how we're going to get that accomplished. And as I just mentioned, there are no new positions, and we mentioned the procurement and risk manager position. And I think that's our last slide. So we did that in about 4.5 minutes, I think. You guys are welcome to reach out to me. Anyone is welcome to reach out to me, but I wanted to be super fast so that I allowed time for everyone else. So we're ready for the clerk's office. And okay, guys, this is the standard. You do have 10 minutes, though. Okay, it's well.
Hi, I'm Shar Tim, your friendly city clerk. And again, FY25 personnel and budget proposal. This is just showing that we're going to follow the same outline as everyone else. And just a fun fact, many people don't realize that according to Idaho state law, every city in Idaho is required to have a city clerk, a city treasurer, and a city attorney, which is why many of the small cities you'll see have a combination of a city clerk and a city treasurer. Another thing that many people, oh no, can you go? I haven't gotten to the mission yet. A lot of people are unaware that the city clerk's office is actually very regulated on our tasks and our responsibilities. So for example, we are mandated by state statute to serve as the official record keeper. It's not a volunteer position, but it is something that is our prime directive, and we take that responsibility to heart. One of the things that we do is the legislative management for City Council. As you know, City Council is probably aware I run a very tight ship when it comes to the City Council agenda and the running of the meeting with the assistance of the mayor and the minutes. This year in FY24, we actually took on the responsibility of clerking for a planning commission, and the planning commission now has a full-time clerk for their meetings as well as a representative from legal. We are also the custodian of the city code, the resolutions, contracts, and proclamations. So as a result, we interact with pretty much every department in the city. We also ensure the compliance with the Idaho Open Meeting Law and the Public Records Request Act, which I will talk about in a little bit. We regulate and administer the city licenses and permits, as we do have Title V, which is under our responsibility in city code. We process all the city claims that come through, whether someone perhaps maybe slipped and fell, got paint on their car during striping, or they want to submit a tort claim. Many people are unaware that we actually manage and maintain the city cemetery deeds and the interment, so we work very closely with cemetery staff. And the last item is actually, we are a passport acceptance facility site. This is not statutorily required, but it is a huge service to the community and is also a strong revenue generator for the city clerk's office, which I'll talk about in just a second. So as of last week, we have already processed 3,200 passports. Those are brand new passports, and we are allowed to charge $35, no more, according to the federal government. So that is where our revenue generation comes for the city clerk's office. And out of that 3,200, we actually had 930 walk-ins. Now last year, FY23 was a record-setting passport numbers according to the U.S. State Department. I'm not sure why, but they don't expect those numbers to ever get that high, but they still see a very strong, steady demand. We posted 162 agenda notices so far for the 20 city boards and commissions. And we do this by ensuring that we comply with the Idaho Open Meeting Law. And so we are involved, again, with pretty much every department that has a board or commission. Now, we processed 494 records requests as of last week, and we had an average of a one-day completion. We probably are on track to get very close to the 719 that we processed last year. I do want to just briefly talk about this. Many times people have a negative connotation regarding public records requests, like they have to go through the legalities to get something, and that's not necessarily true. Many people, including my staff, when we want to get information from another municipality, we will use the public records request process because it is a time requirement of 3 days that you have to respond, either to say I have responsive records, I have no records, or I need a little bit more time, I need a total of 10 days. And then even at that point, we can put in a cost letter saying, you know what, this request is going to take a lot longer, so we only give you 2 hours free, you're going to have to give us some money on that. So go ahead, the next one. So our goals is to achieve a ratio of 85% scheduled visits to 15% walk-ins for passport services. This really is to provide more excellent customer service and also to make my staff more efficient. Right now, we have a lot of walk-ins, and so it disrupts our workflow and doesn't allow us to really expand on what we could do to help the citizens as well as other departments. We also want to continue to achieve an average of 100 passports processed per week. We are right there right now, and we are slowly starting to go more on that. We want to achieve a 70% ratio of total transactions online. We're going to do this by implementing the licensing and permitting software system. It is actually Energov, which is currently being used by the city, and we're just going to piggyback onto that. Right now, everything is manual. We have to email applications. People have to come in. And then, of course, we want to achieve 100% regulatory compliance with the Idaho Open Meeting Law, the public records request, and the city's records retention policy. In order to meet these goals, we are not asking for any additional personnel. And this is what our organizational chart currently looks like, and that is all I have. Thank you. Great, thanks.
Good morning. I am Isabel Vergara I'm one of the 4 business partners in Human Resources. So Marissa O'Brien is our director, but she is out having fun in Hawaii. So here I am. So we're going to go over the same contents pretty much. So our mission overview, the primary purpose is to synchronize people and culture imperatives with relevant people strategies, to drive organization, alignment, superior service, and retain our best talent. Of course, our aim is always to cultivate a candid, caring, and thriving customer service culture where every person has opportunities for growth. This is our department. As you can see, we have our director, Kayla's our system analyst. There's Jonica. And then we are adding Yesenia Hernandez as our other our HR coordinator, myself, and then our 3 other business partners, and then they're all divided up by different departments. This is our organizational chart. Currently, we have 762 employees. Best practice is about 1.7 staff to 100 employees. We are currently with 7 staff at 108 employees. Adding 1 more person will bring us to 8 staff to 95.25 employees, which is the sweet spot according to SHRM, Society of Human Resources Management. Okay. Accomplishments. I'm not going to go over all of them because I feel like we've done a great job. So tail end of 21, beginning of 22, we started the business partner structure where our business partners are assigned to different departments. And this was to provide strategic HR support rather than more of the reactive. So we're trying to do the more strategic. It's been well received, and we believe it's really improved the level of service that we're providing. The lead training and development, that has been a great program. It's a 12-week leadership development course in partnership with Northwest Nazarene University. We've started this initiative with the mayor's office and then the directors, and have cascaded that down to different leadership. Fiscal year 24, NNU has conducted 3 different cohorts and graduated 61 leaders from the city of Nampa. We have more in the planning stages to have more people go through that program. It's a great program. So. Candid culture training and DISC training. So Kayla and I have been trained to provide this training to our people. We've done group sessions with Candid Culture all throughout the city of Nampa, so we've hit every single department for Candid Culture. And the DISC personality profile tool, we've started that recently. We've done a few sessions. We still need to get to some more. We have a great interest in the DISC training. We have we put together a focus group, or as we like to call it, a snack and chat. More people come when we have snacks, so. So just getting their feedback on what they want to see, what issues are they seeing in the different departments, what do you want us to talk about? So with their feedback, we actually delivered our first pilot group this just past Monday, and had some great feedback from that as well. So we hope to be rolling that out very, very soon to anyone who wants to attend. We're not going to make it mandatory, but we would like to see as many people show up as possible. And then Kayla has also done 4 different sessions on wage and hour training that she's delivered to supervisors as well. So supervisor training is one of our goals, because we want to meet 100% with supervisor training to make sure that they're receiving the information they need to run their departments efficiently. And like I said, I'm not going to go through all of them, so. Okay, so our goals is to achieve at least 50% average pay range ratio as compared to the market. So that's defined by our surrounding cities, Boise, Meridian, and Caldwell. Again, we would like 100% of supervisors to complete the supervisor skills training. With the supervisor skills training, we've also partnered with Management Northwest. Sorry, had a brain freezer. Management Northwest, as well as ICRAMP. The newer supervisors, people who are being promoted, people who are just coming in as supervisors, will be going through the ICRAMP supervisor skills training. Another goal is to achieve 85% full-time employee retention, and then 65% part-time employee retention. Of course, part-time is a little higher just because it's the nature. They receive full-time jobs. A lot of the people that we're hiring are still in school, so they're graduating and moving into the workforce. This is just some data on turnover and retention, and then some of the top reasons that we're told that they're leaving to other positions. So in fiscal year 22, full-time turnover was about 20%. 23 went down to 13.6%, and then to date we're only at 5%. So some of the top reasons in 22-23, pay benefits. For part-time, it's been family personal reasons, and then to date it's been because people are receiving or going to a better opportunity. What better opportunity means is it could be they're moving from an individual contributor role to maybe a supervisory role at a different company, or they have different perks that they're receiving, so not so much pay benefits anymore. One of our goals is to keep that pay competitive, have affordable benefits, and good supervisory skills from our leaders to trickle down, cascade down to our individual contributors so that people want to stay. And with that, any questions? All right, thank you.
Great job, thank you.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. And I'm Butch Shireman. I am the Chief Information Officer for the City of Nampa, and let's roll. I've been told I'm long-winded, so we're gonna set a record today. All right, this is our traditional agenda. Next slide. So our mission is to provide reliable, secure, and innovative technology solutions that enhance the city's ability to improve the quality of life for its residents. Our bottom line is we're trying to make the tools available and the systems work so that people here in the city can do their jobs better and reach the community more effectively. All right. I've included some ratios here so everybody can see our staff to the overall population, and I've gone out there and done it against cities our size, between 500 and 1,000. I just want to highlight a few things. Overall staff to the city, we have 25 staff members, which gives us a 1 to 31 ratio, so one IT staff person to 31 people. The range you can see there is from 1 to 18 to all the way up to 1 to 27. So we're above that, and we feel good about that because we're able to support people well, and we're doing a good job with the stewardship there. Technical staff that support the computers are down, things aren't working, and things like that. Our ratio is 1 to 191 on the city side. That's the non-PD staff. The range is from 1 to 40 to 1 to 20 in the industry. So we're well above that, but we, if you look at our, later on, you'll see our ratings. We rate very high, so we're doing a good job supporting that. And then the PD staff, we're 1 to 61, where the range is anywhere from 1 to 25 to 1 to 65. So we're at that upper end, and I feel good about that because we really want to make sure that our police are well served and that their, life isn't in danger as we go through that. You can see some of the infrastructure support that we have. I'll let you guys read through that at your leisure through the slides, but those are just some of the things that we support. Here's our accomplishments for FY24 up to this point. We service about 6,500 tickets a year annually, and we're on pace to do that. We update about 100 systems a year. We're looking at 92 this year. We support about 528 cell phones, along with 383 air cards across the city. This last year, we established an IT service level agreement, which means we are committed to the departments to deliver on tickets that come in based on priority and severity within a time frame. We've committed ourselves to time frames, and we've said that we will be 85% successful in that. And the reason the percentage is at 85% and not higher is because some of our dependency is on external third parties, which we can't control. So we are held by their standards as well. But we're sitting at about 94% success rate at that, so we're well above that. But we did want to leave ourselves some room, and as we go through each year and analyze that, we may raise that bar. We may be able to do that. 98% uptime across the network. We're pretty proud of that. We base that on an 8 to 5 time frame, so that's 20,080 hours a year. A lot of the companies that we deal with out there base their uptime on a 24-hour period. That leaves a lot of leeway for downtime when we're not here and we don't know about it. So if you build that in there, oh yeah, we're 95% up. Yeah, but the 5% you're down is during our working hours, and it severely affects us. So we base our uptime on the actual working hours so that we're more accurate with that. And then when it comes to downtime, we count everything. So on the network, if golf course is impacted and nobody else is, that's still an impact to our network, and we count it against the whole thing. So we're taking a bigger chunk out of that. We're not trying to percentage it down or calculate it. If there's any interruption to service anywhere, that's an interruption to the service in the city, and that's how we count it. Right now we're at 98.5% uptime and holding strong there. Ransomware attacks. Everybody tells us, don't build your goals at 100%, but this one you don't have a choice. If we get attacked, it's catastrophic. So a couple of statistics I wanted to highlight there. We get over 500,000 emails coming in a month to the city, 500,000. And about 30,000 of those we filter out immediately before you even see them, which is about 6% that we determine is either suspect or highly nefarious. And then in addition to that, we have a tool that you guys should all be aware of, the fish alert button. So if you get an email that does come through and it does look suspect, you can send it to us. And over the last 3 months, we've averaged about 275 reported across the city. Of those, about 30 a month are actual threats that we've been able to take out of there, so that's really good. I do want to call out one thing, that our most attentive person to report phishing is sitting right there in the back of there, Mr. Peter McPherson. He averages about 43 reported emails a month. The next closest person is 8. So we've got Peter well trained. We brought him in, we made him paranoid, we burned him a couple times. times on some test emails, and so now he's on top of that. And then our IT service satisfaction level, we have a goal of being at 9.3 or above, and we're currently at 9.76. Our goals, we're holding our goals pretty close to what we had in fiscal '24 because it served us very well. We've been able to serve the city well with that, and we want to hold to those high standards. So we're looking at roughly the same goals going forward. Proposed operations budget is down. We're trying to honor Doug's wish to lower the operations budget, so we were able to do that. We are not asking for any new FTEs in fiscal '25. And then there's our capital requests there for the year, and you guys can look those over as you choose to go through that. There's part of our team. I asked my team to come this morning. There's a large bunch of them back there. Most of you don't know them because they're behind the scenes, and that's a good thing. The less you know about us and the less you hear about us, the better things are going, and that's our goal, is we want to be behind the scenes keeping things running so that you guys and everyone else can do their jobs effectively. So kudos to these guys. I want to really brag on them. They're an outstanding crew. We're really proud of them. And there's our hierarchy for the team.
Mayor Clayton, I need to talk to Butch just for a second. Okay.
Very quickly.
Also, when I come, and some of the city council comes in for council hearings, we can't get into the network. And so James he's 100 miles an hour trying to get us back on board. So what can we do to help us continue and not have to go to James at every council?
I tell you what, let's answer that question after the council meeting.
Absolutely.
We'll answer that after the council.
Appreciate you bringing it to
Not
our attention, though.
Okay.
Workshop, though, excuse me, it's not a council meeting, so thank you. Okay, and who's next? I think it may be you. You know, I'm going to say something while Doug is coming up and getting started. I sent him, you guys maybe saw in the news last night that the city of Gooding actually lost $1 million through a nefarious email that came through. And I believe that has been attempted with the city, but Doug averted it. But those are the challenges that we face, very real challenges. I cannot imagine. Were you going to bring it up? I'm so sorry.
No, not perfect, yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, we'll come back to that in just a second, but that really is critical. So, go to the next slide. So this, what's my job, really? What is the finance function here? I think Butch and Marissa would probably agree. If finance, HR, and IT do our jobs really good and no external problems show up, you never even know we're here. You shouldn't know we're here if we do it right. When issues crop up, that's when we get involved. So my goal, this finance goal, to secure and safeguard the financial assets of the city. That's everything that's financed, secure it, safeguard it, make sure that we minimize the fraud risk, we minimize the exposure to poor accounting policies, we minimize the exposure to using funds, or maximize the way we use funds to make them the most beneficial for the city. That's the goal. We provide accurate and timely guidance to decision makers. Who are the decision makers? Department heads, mayor, council. If I can't provide you the information to good decisions, then I have not done a good job. And we try and ensure compliance with all applicable laws, requirements, so that when we issue a budget, that's our legal authority to spend. When we prepare council meeting agenda notes that say something is included in the FY24 or 25 budget, it is actually included in the budget, it's represented accurately. That's our compliance. Let's go on to the next slide. So we've got a couple of goals here, and I'm going to go through these kind of quick. Goals and objectives. 2 years ago, we did a budget amendment in springtime of $50 million. It was rather substantial. A lot of that was capital projects that were rolled over, or capital projects being added to the budget. The challenge with that is that when we reach the end of the year, many of those added projects had not been completed. We didn't spend the money, we just didn't do the project. So we actually kind of overinflated our budget beyond where it needed to be. So in the springtime of this year, we cut back the amendment from $50 million to $19 million, and of that, $5 million was that land purchase that we authorized as the city. So we were able to cut that down by 50%, but now I want to cut it down further. But the downside of that, as you remember the Monday night's council, there were 4 or 5 items that said, will require a budget amendment. So we need to find the right balance as we go forward. Do we keep the budget amendment really tight and then force everything to amendment, or do we try and capture more in the amendment so we have fewer amendment items or fewer council agenda items that say will require a budget amendment? And we'll work on that down the road. But whatever the case is, finance does not want to be the cause of delaying a project. We want to make sure the projects go forward in a timely manner, and we'll find out the best path as we go forward. So that's what my number one goal is. The second 2 goals are tied together. Achieve forecast accuracy of 90% for expenses. We frequently find our budgets when we get to the end of the year that we have budgets that are in excess of maybe $1 million, $2 million of budgeted value that we did not spend. So why didn't we spend it? Sometimes it's because we have FTEs that are open that we're trying to fill the position. It's still a competitive job market, and sometimes that's the case. But my job is to look at the finances and make sure we're budgeting according to our needs, not according to our wants. What do we need? And that's what we want to budget. So we want to increase the accuracy so that I minimize the degree of favorable variances at the end of the year, so that we're matching our actuals to our needs. And that's the same with the capital. Capital is a little more difficult because capital projects take time to develop. Sometimes they require grants, sometimes they require cooperation from ITD or other agencies in the state. So sometimes they're a little bit up and down in the degree of completion that we can accomplish, but still we want to tighten down that process. The others will go through a process. P-card usage, reduce authorized number of P-cards, that's risk and that's fraud. We get weekly notices from Wells Fargo about somebody's P-card's been hacked, and somebody outside the city's gone on a spending spree. Normally, the Wells Fargo catches these because they're outside the pattern of spending. They notify us, we're able to stop it, and then we don't incur the fraud. We wouldn't pay for it directly anyway. Wells Fargo would absorb that, but I want to minimize the risk by reducing the number of P-cards and reducing the usage. And finally, in my department, we are leveraging our grants processing to deliver funding to the city to help me pay for all those grants costs. So there's a function inside federal grants called IDC, indirect cost. If we apply for it, we can have the grant pay for up to 10% of the operational costs that I incur to support that. That's compliance, that's reporting, that's report generation, and so forth. And in the budget next year, I've got $50,000, for the first time, $50,000 worth of revenue coming back to help offset my costs. And my actual budget for the finance, first time, actually went down from the prior year, didn't go up. Total budget went down, total budget. So that includes all my cost increases, we actually took it down. All right, let's go on to the next slide. How does this all happen with how do we get this all done? How's my team? How many of you noticed the toasters back there by the bagels today? We had bagels and toasters. Vanessa. She thinks through things, and then, well, not only do we have bagels, we make sure we can toast them and enjoy them. So she's really, she epitomizes the team here. We've got Michelle Camper. She's our controller back there. I'll go through this in a second. One of the accomplishments that we have had for the last 40-plus years is the GFOA Certificate of Excellence. I may have misphrased that exact title, Michelle, but it means that every year she submits our ACFR, our financial statements to the GFOA, to the state, and for the 43rd year in a row, we've received an award of excellence on those. So it's very, very good. That's awesome. And then we've got on the outside in the blue is that Janelle? No, that's Jessica. Jessica, Leslie next to her, Chris Ocker, that blue shirt. You ever see that guy on like NCIS IT, this guy that can solve problems in a miracle, you know? That's Chris, all right? That's what Chris does. And then we've got payroll. There's Sandy back next. She's AP. Chris Boaz, Vanessa's in there, and then the blue dress, that's Kathy. Payroll, she makes sure everybody gets paid every 2 weeks. She doesn't miss a beat, she's awesome. And then Sandy, who is our finance analyst, Diana, reporting to Michelle, and awesome team. All right, let's go on. I wanted to get to a couple things here. This is the org structure. We have no new FTEs. Right. Let's go back. Let's go past this. We'll go here. So I listed a ton of things on here. I don't want to go through them all. It's counterproductive. Finance does a lot, from AP to cash flows, to manage investments, to manage the health trust finances, to manage the grants process, to track expenditures, to develop budgets. It never ends. And if we do it right, like I said, you don't know that we did it. That's where we want it to be. But at the bottom, there's our distinguished presentation award. That one, probably, that's the first one. That's the new one we got. So we got a new one. We got a new award for doing the budget. We submit it to the GFOA, that's a governing body. Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. They go through and list criteria in here and say, these are the things we're supposed to have in the budget, table of contents, things like that. But okay, strategic goals and plans, priorities and issues, budget overview, financial long-term planning, fund descriptions, budget process description. They have probably 30 or 40 different categories that we have to meet rigorously. And why that's important to you is because that means we're going through a process that's well-defined to give the best possible budget outcome for the city. And it's intensive. I'm going to thank Leslie. You want to thank Leslie back there? She did all the work to get this submitted for the first time. She put tons of effort in to track our report, get it into the GFOA, and have them review it. And we just got this back a couple of days ago. So let's come back to the issue the mayor brought up in Gooding. So she texted us that information last night. There was a $1 million fraud for a payment to a waste facility contractor. So how does a city pay $1 million to somebody and not know it, right? So this is what happens. You get a legitimate vendor, a real-life vendor that you're dealing with. You've got a city accounts payable department. And you've got a bad guy that tries to get between the vendor and the city. And we had this happen to us once. We got dinged for like $500 payment several years ago. We've revised our payments. But what the bad guy does is he goes to, he social engineering information on the vendor. He understands them. He knows who they work, who their accounts payable people are. He knows who their leaders are. Then he crafts an email or calls the city and say, you know what? We changed our banking processes. I would like you to redirect this payment. Instead of writing a check, send it to my ACH account. And they'll have all the right names on their email. I'm the person, and we look up on the city's records, yes, that's who we deal with. This is the address, yes, that's the correct address, here's the phone number, yes, that's the phone number. What the city didn't do is they didn't call back to that individual, that vendor who requested the change, verbally pick up the phone and say, did you request a change in banking instructions to talk to somebody? We do that. And we're going to revisit our rule again. They're getting more and more sophisticated, and that's why I'm saying if we do our job right, you never really know we're here. We're operating beneath the scenes. This is some of the things that I take very, very seriously. And we push this. So I know I'm about out of time, so let's move on here. But let's go down here to, very quickly, finance. So what were the challenges in the finance budget? Well, my finance, even though I've cut costs, my finance audit fees went up $35,000 this year. That's from $60,000 to $100,000, well, actually $45,000, $65,000 to $105,000. Now, we're going to do an RFP, but I talked with all of my counterparts across the city. Everybody's audit fees are going up. This is what's happening. The auditors are having a hard time getting staffing, so we're impinging upon their for-profit work, and then they're saying, well, if you're going to be impinging on for-profit work and I can't get staffing, I'm going to charge you the same rate I charge Albertsons. So anyway, healthcare costs up 7% across the city. Percy costs up. Percy cost increase. That's not right. Wrong number. $1 million. Percy went up $1 million. Yeah, down there in the bottom. Personnel, and VRT is up from 479 to 750, Treasury Valley Transit 120. We have lots of cost increase, and we're able to absorb most of those. Let's go on to the next slide. Oh, ICRIP, yes. So ICRIP gave us a nice gift. Monday Night Council, we get an email to them, Peter forwards it on. They just increased our costs, our insurance cost for buildings and vehicles, an additional 15%. I'd already bumped it up 10%. So a 25% increase in 1 year. So our insurance bill to ICRIP is now nearly $1 million. So that's a $200,000 increase this year alone. Last year was a 16% increase. So you take 2 years, you're at a 41% increase over 2 years. This is the world we live in, trying to offset those cost avoidance. We'll have a meeting with them to talk about it, but the challenges, and the rationale are pretty clear why they will say home ownership value, property value is going up, the replacement cost is extraordinary. If we have to replace a building, last year it was X, this year it's X plus 10%, so that's going to be their justification.
Doug, can I follow
Okay.
something on that real quickly? And that is that our processes internally with ICRIM, we are doing an excellent job. We are achieving all the discounts that we can achieve because of the training, because of the policies we have in place. We sat with ICRIM just in April and had a report of what a phenomenal job we are doing as a city. So it isn't because of the city. It has to do with the
very good point.
statewide claims that they're receiving and then the property values, but we will have a discussion, I think it's later today, on that.
Right.
Thank you, Doug.
Yeah. Let's go into general government. My clock resets now. All right. Peter's back there going, come on, speed it up. Okay, all right. So,
We're actually ahead of time, though, so we're doing good.
Okay.
Yeah, we're doing good.
so, okay, when I say, councilors, when I say general government, what do you take that to mean? When I say it, what do you interpret that as being? Any thoughts? What would you call general government? So inside the general government are the guts that operate the city. That's police, that's IT, that's HR, that's finance, that's the mayor's office, that's the clerk's office, that's code enforcement. We operate and make the city function. Wastewater, water, streets, irrigation, those are not general government. They're enterprise funds that operate more like, kind of like businesses to a certain extent. But general government is the functionary element. How do we account for general government funds? We have one org inside the general, there's about 25 orgs, and by org I mean a finance org, an HR org, IT org. We have one org inside the general government that we literally call general government. That's 13020. That, and you'll see this in the budget, when we use that one to account for all revenues coming in, well, 99% of revenues, we don't, clerks' fees go to the clerk's office, but 99% of the revenues that the city operates on for internal services come into general gov. That's property taxes, shared revenues, court fees. We have a small amount of money we get from Canyon County for court fees, interest income, state shared revenues for sales and liquor taxes. That all comes into general government. And out of general government, we host certain expenses. We provide, we cover for contract services like VRT. We provide for agency, AIC Compass costs, so if the membership dues. And at the very bottom of this org, we have what's called transfers and allocations. Probably the most complex, confusing part of my budget is what transfers and allocations. We transfer out additional monies from general government, so that's probably going to be like shared sales taxes and revenues. We transfer out shared revenues to other departments who need the funds. That would be Parks and Recs. Parks and Recs gets property taxes and they get shared revenue function. About $2 million of property taxes and $1.2 million of shared revenue we send out to them. We send money to the FJC to help them operate. We send money to the FIC, the Fort Idaho Center, and the NAPIC Civic Center for operational costs. Those are transfers where we're transferring costs, in essence, we're transferring costs back into general government by giving them funds to pay for it. And then we have allocations. So we take this is probably the most complex, least understood, and most difficult area of my job, is to take and say, what value do Butch, myself, Marissa, and the mayor's office and clerk's office, what value do we provide for the rest of the city that I can charge them for? So we have an internal allocation, an internal service allocation. We add up all of our costs for the values that I can charge to the wastewater and to police, and because police is a significant function, they're general gov, but there's a significant function. Wastewater, streets, irrigation, airport, cemetery, library. What value do I give them? We process payroll. We process accounts payable. Butch makes sure the IT keeps running, that the computers, when you press the on button, they turn on in the morning. HR makes sure we have HR policies, that people are employed. It's a huge undertaking. So we allocate a significant amount of our cost out to those departments. And that's the small portion, but it is a portion of revenue we get back, not revenue, but cost offsetting. And that's the transfers and allocations. Very complex, but it serves a vital service to help us keep in business. So for the police, when we tell you police cost X number of dollars, that includes the value of our internal services that we allocate to them. So we can look at that one big picture and say, the cost of the city for the police is X. That's a fairly, what I would call in finance, a fully loaded number. So you're loading all the numbers in to say, this is what it really costs us to operate. Questions on that? It's kind of complex, and I went through it very quickly, but you'll have one org in the budget when we review it. That will be 130-20 general gov, and that's the revenue that comes in and the primary money that goes out to support other departments in the city, in and out. But all the other departments in general gov host just their expenses, and the revenues reside in 130-20.
So
Let's
Doug,
see. Yes.
we do have, I think we're okay on our time. I think I'd like to ask if council has any questions on Doug's discussion regarding general gov, the various funds that he's working for, the allocation of those funds. Do you guys have any questions or need any clarification?
Mayor, I was just going to draft up a question for you to ask, but I'm sorry, I was in the back of the room listening to your presentation. As far as on the liability exposure, when we're talking about ICRIMP and the rate increases, are we considering any other insurance companies just for?
We will now.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And whenever we have a spike like that, we do one of two things. First, we reach out to them and say, can we get this back in a reasonable rate? That's the first question we ask ICRIMP. We have a good relationship with them. They're supportive. They're helpful to us. We want to reach out to them and say, can we get to a more agreeable rate? If not, then we evaluate our options.
Okay.
That would probably be done through an RFP process.
Yes.
If we were going to do it right away, we'd have to get on it very quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
But, yes.
Okay. Good.
Definitely. And that's the same with my audit services. They're going up 35%. I don't think I'm going to find another auditor better, but I'm going to go through the process and try it because the cost is up $35,000, $40,000, significant for me.
Mayor Clinton. So I have a question for you, though. So we're reducing our costs liability-wise, but apparently we're paying for all the other cities that aren't. Is that what the increase is coming from?
Hard to say.
We don't know. It's part of it. Doug mentioned the valuation of everything, the valuation on all of our buildings. So that's an exposure for ICRIMP because the assessed values across the state, especially here, have gone crazy high. So if there is a claim, it makes it really difficult. Our goal, when I came into the city, actually, where we were because of some I'm going to just say employee changes and different things, we were upside down with ICRIMP. So we actually have been running very well with ICRIMP. We have changed that considerably, and so we're in a good place. But, and for example, there's one city that has a deductible for police of $120,000 because of their claims. So we've been doing pretty good, but we have to watch the claims in every single department, everything that we do. That's why we have a really good policies in place. We have good safety plans in place. The training that we've implemented, I feel really good about where we are. But it's an ongoing training, and that's why we do the training that we do. It's ongoing, even on the IT side, right? The IT training, ICRIMP has implemented a KnowBe4, which you guys get those emails, that's very helpful. The risk is increased greatly, and it could be the cyber risk. When we have this meeting, we'll find out what the reason for such a significant increase. This has got to be hitting every city very hard. The challenge for us was it came at the last minute. We already knew we had a 10% increase. To get a $140,000 increase, another 15% last minute, is extremely challenging. So we'll be having that
It essentially
discussion.
makes me go back to the beginning on my P&L, because that impacts every department in the city, and I have to respin every wheel to make this balance in there. It's exceedingly annoying.
Is there
One
any
other-
department that's paying more than normal or no more than standard?
Other cities?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I will say, if you look at and think about what Doug just shared, between Percy, health insurance costs, and ICRIM, those increases exceed the 3% increase that we would be looking for. Just those increases alone exceed a 3% tax increase. So that's why we needed the operational decreases to help offset the increases that we don't get to control. Those are out of our control. So, thank you.
All right, let's go on to the last slide for VRT. This is always a topic of great debate. This year, the VRT is budgeted in two places. The base of it, the $471,024, remains in general government. So the $130,20 I talked about, that maintains the base. The increase request of VRT is to go up to $705,000, or an increase of $233,000. That portion is being hosted in the transportation budget for streets. So we're kind of splitting it out and let them take care of it, and we'll take part of it. What you as a council choose to do going forward on supporting VRT will be your call, but those budgets reflect the current state of the billing request, and you can see what they're asking for in 2026, another $157,000 increase above what 2025 has. So that will be a debate for you and the councilors to go through, but it is hosted in general government and streets.
And Doug, if I could just make one comment on that, and that is that we have really underfunded VRT for the last number of years. The costs have really been higher. They can't continue to do that. And so, as we all know, costs are going up. We have built this budget around this. So when you see our budget come forward, we're coming forward with a budget that includes all of this. So it is in the budget, it's budgeted. We're coming forward with, actually, I feel really good about our budget. Because we're proposing a budget that is the 3% increase, and we're working within that in every regard. Plus, we're accomplishing, until this last ICRIM change, because that's like one police officer. But we are accomplishing our police officer requests, I believe. And so we've worked diligently to actually get where we had wanted to go. Because we knew we could fund 3, goal was 5. We'll see ICRIM coming in at the last minute. We're going to have to see. But we're working very diligently to get everything done.
A brief comment on property tax expectations for next year, very brief, in talking with Steve Onifray in Canyon County. The preliminary information I have from him, and right now it's preliminary until mid-June, is that our property tax situation is improving slightly. We're not quite as much as last year, but we're probably within $100,000 of last year on the property taxes. So that's good. That helps us meet some of these challenges. But I hate having that money come in just to have to say, oh, I got to deal with ICRIP $140,000, and then I have to deal with, these costs going up. I really hate doing that, but the numbers are what they are. Anyway, questions for anybody, anything? Okay. You're probably wondering how I keep this all in my head. Well, some of my staff, they wonder how I do too. All right. Thanks, everybody.
So our last presentation was facilities, and we'll try to keep facilities up. If we keep facilities up to 10 minutes, then we're going to have approximately 20 minutes that we can have a discussion if we need to have that. To the entire team, you guys did an amazing job because everybody stayed right on time. So, Patrick, you have a big, shoes to fill right there.
Yeah, I can go under 10 minutes probably.
No, you're good.
So,
Thank you.
anyway, my name is Patrick Sullivan. I'm the Director of Facilities. And next slide. Next. So anyway, our mission is to provide technical and operational support to all the city buildings to make sure that the employees can do their jobs, the city is safe, we keep the lights on, we keep the buildings clean, and we provide in-house custodial services, we provide maintenance services, about 1,600 to 1,800 work orders a year just from our maintenance team doing small maintenance projects. We manage design and construction projects for capital building projects and for larger planned maintenance projects. And then our focus is really to find cost-effective ways to provide these services so that we can have safe and well-maintained facilities. Next slide. So anyway, we try and minimize financial impacts wherever we can and be frugal. We follow industry best practices and we train our staff, both our custodians, our maintenance staff, so that they can provide the most efficient and cost-effective services. We have preventive maintenance. We maintain a 10-year capital and maintenance improvement plan for the city-owned buildings. This avoids unplanned and costly deferred maintenance, and we basically then we maintain buildings at the regular schedule so that we're repairing roofs when they need to be repaired, replace them when they really need it. Same thing with rooftop equipment for HVAC. And then we really want to have deliver projects with really effective cost control. So we work with departments to find the most appropriate project scope and budget for a project so we're not overspending, whether it be a new fleet building or whether it be replacing the roof on the Idaho Hispanic Community Center. We want to find the most cost-effective way to meet the needs, both short-term and long-term, and then also do it the most cost-effective way we can. So next slide. So our accomplishments in FY24 to date is we've developed a security camera and security lighting capital improvement plan that we're working on developing scope projects for. We provide custodial services in 21 buildings, which is the buildings that we house employees in, and that's over 337 square feet. We provide maintenance services in 46 buildings, which is about 738,000 square feet. And then we actually have in our HVAC maintenance contract for all of our other outlying buildings like pump stations and lift stations, we actually have 106 buildings that we take care of. We completed the Fort Idaho Center RV parking project. There's a little bit of landscaping left on that. And we completed quite a bit of deferred maintenance on the Idaho Hispanic Community Center, including HVAC upgrades, lighting upgrades, interior finishes, and some roof repair. And we started design on the streets and waterworks building additions. Next. So our custodial services, pre-COVID, we were right in line with what contracted services are. We've found that the level of service and the cost for third-party contracted services, we still have third-party custodial services on a couple buildings, and we can provide better service at a lower rate with our internal staff, and so we'll be requesting a few more custodians this year, and we'll go into that a little further. Next slide. So our work requests right now, we're trending, the first 6 months of the year, we're about a little over 900 work requests for maintenance in buildings. We're trending, we're probably going to end about 1,800 this year, which is higher than last year. Next. So our goals, we've worked with the mayor's office, we've worked with consultants over it's been a couple year period now on our newest set of goals, and I think these are going to be really effective for us. So we want to achieve an 85% planned versus unplanned facilities project ratio. In other words, at the budget process right now, we want to know what projects that we're going to be managing, and we want to make sure we have adequate staff to manage those, and we don't want to overextend ourselves by buying into or having unplanned facilities projects crop up in the middle of a fiscal year. And I think we're doing a really good job working with the mayor's office, working with finance, and working with individual departments for that goal. We want to make sure that we're not overextending our project managers so that we can actually have the right amount of time spent on each project so that we can maintain the scope and the cost so we don't have cost overruns or scope creep on those projects. So we want 30 hours per week for each project manager. The additional 10 hours per week is for oversight, invoicing, and then there's always things that come up that take up your day. And if you're just doing projects all the time, you don't have time to do the cleanup and do the other unplanned things that come up, then we're not as effective as we could be. We want to make sure that we're completing our projects within those forecasted hours. And we also want to achieve a better department employee retention score. Our employee retention score this year has been great. In years past during COVID, we had a really hard time hiring maintenance staff and keeping them on board, and then hiring custodial staff. But we have a great dedicated staff right now. They're very hardworking, proactive, self-starting group of people, and we're really happy to have them. And so we've been really successful retaining them. So our budget proposal for FY25, we have some new buildings and additions we're helping departments with. We're working on putting out a request for qualifications right now for a new fleet services building. We're already working on design for the streets office building and the waterworks building office addition, and we're going to be kicking off design this week on the AWAS hangar. For their weather station. It's a little hangar in their improvement area. We're going to be working on 22 building mechanical, electrical, and HVAC capital projects, 21 planned building maintenance projects, and about 8, and then the capacity to take on another 8 unplanned building maintenance projects. We can take on more than that if they're small maintenance projects, but this is larger projects, like over $100,000 that just crop up, and all of a sudden we need a major office remodel somewhere, and if we didn't know about it, it's a strain on our resources. So, and we want to reduce the number of unplanned capital projects, so that's being redundant. So next slide. Our biggest ask this year is we want to expand in-house custodial services, and the reason we want to do this is we feel that we can hire 4 new custodians to take on the Idaho Hispanic Cultural Center, the library, and the Nampa Development Services Center, and do it cheaper by about 9% for about $279,000 for those salaries, and compared to $309,000 for third-party custodial services. Third-party custodial services go up 3 to 4% a year on contracts because they have cost escalation just like we do and unplanned things. And we have more control if we have a well-trained staff that we can manage in-house, because when you have a third-party custodial service, they usually come in after hours, and then we have to go on a weekly basis and make sure they're keeping us the level of standard that we expect. If there's problems or turnaround with their staff, and they have new staff that have never performed in that building, sometimes things are messed. And so we're always fighting that battle with a third-party custodial service of things that are undone that we need to then send our staff in to fix the next day. And if we can keep it in-house, then we can keep expectations high and really improve the level of service and do it cheaper. So next slide. And this is how it would break down. We would have 1 custodian 3 position, which is a lead position, and 1 custodian 2 position. It's similar to what we have at the Hugh Nichols Public Safety Building. We have 1, 3, and 2 2s there, and Scott, our lead there, is great at coordinating the workload. It takes off some of the workload of the custodial supervisor, and it makes sure that we maintain a high level of service. And the library is about the same size as that building. And then we have the Nampa Development Services Center. This last year, we've had to actually spend 2 more days cleaning with our internal staff, which takes away from our other buildings because the contract went up. And we couldn't afford it in our current budget, so we had to throw in our own staff and cut them down to 3 days a week with the third party. And this will help free up those staff to do other buildings. And then right now we're doing 3 days a week with our current staff also at the Hispanic Community Center, which is really a drain on resources and cuts down on level of service to other buildings. So if we can have 1 custodian building or custodian 2 over there, then we would have 6 days of service, because they are really demanding more service as the building gets used more. So next slide. And this is a cost breakdown. Again, we're about $279,000 for the new FTEs versus $309,000 for for the third-party contract. And this doesn't include the supplies or the equipment because that's already in our budget. We already supply those materials for the third-party services.
If I can make a quick comment, when you see the new FTEs and those costs, those are fully loaded costs. Just a quick FYI, it's fully loaded. That is salary plus benefits, which benefits run about 30%.
Right. And it'll actually be a hair less than this because working with Marissa, we think we can actually hire below midpoint based on what we're spending right now for salaries and where the market is. So we're hoping to hire and be able to actually drive that cost down a little bit more. So next slide. So again, we have 18 dedicated staff members. We would like to go up to 22. Everybody has their heart into this job, and they do a wonderful job. If they don't know something, they ask questions. And if they do know something, they know they're empowered to get it done within those guardrails that we have put up with our policies and procedures. And this is how it breaks out. Next slide. So we have a director, we have 2 project managers, an admin, we have a facilities operations manager, which is over maintenance supervisor, the custodial supervisor, and the locksmith. And then we have one maintenance tech 2, 2 maintenance tech 1s, and then we have 1 custodian 3, we would go to 2, and then we have 6 custodian 2s, which we would go to 9. So that's how it breaks out. So I hope I did that around 10 minutes. So if you have any
You did that
questions,
really
you
good.
can
Thank you.
address that. We address that in the question period here.
Mayor.
Well, and you're the last one, so are there any questions for Patrick? This is an opportunity, so right now it is 8:36. We have a few minutes. If you have any questions for Patrick, we'll address those now, and then I may make some closing comments. Yes.
Just a quick question. We used to have the gym back here that we traded for a building downtown between Front and First. Do we still have that as a storage facility for surplus products, or?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We still have that building. It is much smaller than what we had before. It is basically maxed out.
Okay, so that was my question then. If we do have a central service or storage facility for those type of things, each building probably has space within them for surplus products as well?
We have nooks and crannies in every space. We don't have a lot of dedicated space in each building. Right now, when we get paper products, it's delivered to our NDSC. We break it down the pallets, and we have to cart it out to all the buildings and put it in custodial closets or in storage rooms there. So we do not have we don't have room in that building. We have some record storage, and then we have furniture parts for like cubicles, things like that. But it's not a very big building. It's around 3,000 square feet.
So your base of operations for custodial services is out of the NDS?
It is,
Where
our
it is?
administrative services, and then we have some cubicles in the basement that people can log in, but then the maintenance techs are based out there, and a few of the custodians. The other custodians report to their individual buildings, and everybody has a smartphone that they can log in and be able to do their timesheets, things like that.
So you think efficiency of operations works fine out of that type of scenario?
No, it doesn't. We really would like a fleet building sometime. We've looked at, explored those options in years past. It just hasn't come to fruition. We are, in this current budget, we have a dollar amount to rent 1,500 square foot of storage space, some place centrally located, and we'll be going through that in our budget presentation to the mayor today, because we need some overflow.
Thank you.
Mayor, I have a question. Patrick, so when we talk about the 4 employees, the increase, did you say the contracts, if we went external, it would be a 3% increase to the contracts? Or what percent did you say?
It's a 3% increase for a custodial contract per year. We basically go year to year on a custodial contract, and then so that we can negotiate, per state law, we can have a 5-year contract, but instead we do a 5-year contract with 1-year updates to it, and then that when we update it, we can negotiate, they're already working for us, and we can negotiate that, and usually we can negotiate a little lower than if we budgeted let's say we budget a 3.5% and we're stuck with it for 5 years. So,
Okay, I'm just thinking, because what internal versus external is only a difference of 7,392 this first year. And so I'm just trying to figure out why it would make more sense to bring on more, and I don't know, maybe it's a Doug question, and maybe it's for another time to, for me to personally get the answer, but I'm just trying to figure out if that makes sense to bring somebody on, because we just talk about ICRIMP, that increases, so if we bring more employees onto the city, does that increase more? Like, is there what are the pros and cons versus internal and external?
the pro would be that we would have a higher level of service and less man hours for our operations manager and our custodial manager to manage the third parties. We would bring on custodian 3 that could provide lead services, or basically lead that team in these buildings and be able to better manage them within the buildings. It's an incremental, it's not that big of a savings, but what we'll get as far as better level service, cleaner buildings, more consistent service. There's a lot of turnover with third-party services. So you may have a custodian that works for them for a few months, they find a different job, now you have a new custodian. That custodian needs to be retrained on that building, and it starts over. And then you finally get them to the point where they're doing a great job, and you might have some more turnover. So there's more turnover for third-party. If we're going to have let's say we have 2 to 3% cost of living every year, and we have 3 to 4% increase in the third-party services, they're basically tracking, they're both going to increase every year, but I feel that if we can retain employees, then we're better off providing the service internally. The other thing is that we don't get from a third party is if we have people on take a week off vacation or somebody's off sick, we can pull somebody from another building to backfill that position. The other thing is we do have some police areas where everybody has to be background checked, CJIS background checked. And so if all of our employees that work in the buildings are CJIS background check, if somebody has an extended illness in the police building or in one of their satellite offices, we can pull any of our custodians to backfill that. And we can't pull third-party contractual services into that rotation because they're just assigned to those buildings that we designate.
And I'd like to, just a real quick one. That was a really good question, though. In addition to the cross-functional efficiencies, I think that your question, though, we need to come up with an answer to that, and that has to do with the liability. So we'll do the research regarding the liability of the employees and that cost-benefit analysis. We'll do that so that we have that answer for you. So,
Okay.
yeah, thank you.
Mayor Kling, so I have a question either for you or Doug. Sorry, Patrick. So is the Idaho 2C, are we classifying that as an enterprise so they can pay for their own costs, I guess,
So
or not?
it is not considered an enterprise fund. It is in our budget departmentally. However, the thing that we had talked about early on, and that my recommendation is, we had set aside money that we could, and my recommendation is out of our reserves and capital, we set aside money, and I think right now that's around just under $600,000 we have reserved. When we see the budget come forward, outside of major capital expenses, it's about a $100,000 deficit this year. You're going to see that coming forward. So, but out of that almost 600,000, if we had 6 years that we say we're not going to exceed that, I mean, ideally in 3 years we're going to have a good idea of where we are financially, and the council's going to need to make a decision, right? Because what we don't want is a financial deficit. When you look at our budget and how tight we are, it is challenging. We don't want to take on more costs. However, at this time, it's like an event like anything. You don't turn something around in 1 year. You need to give it a 3-year trend and have a good idea of where you're going. And so that's my recommendation, is that the money that we have set aside, we continue to have set aside. We draw upon that, and we continue to get to that break-even point on that particular building. And so it's taken a little time, but I feel really good about where we're going.
I do too, and that's part of the budget issue that I'm looking at, is that they pay for their own. expenses. That's
Where
I'm
we're
getting
going.
at, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Patrick? Okay.
Thanks.
So I'd like to just say, well, first of all, great job, team. You guys did a really good job. Everyone did an excellent job of presenting. Council, I hope that this is beneficial to you. This was fast, but there's a whole lot going on. And I will say, it takes a whole lot more work to refine a message into a very brief place, right? You've heard it said that come and ask me to speak for an hour and you can give me 5 minutes notice, but ask me to speak for 5 minutes, you better give me a good notice, right? Because you got to pare it down, and our team has done a phenomenal job. A couple of thoughts that I had as I was listening today. Stewardship has been a message that our entire city has heard now for over 6 years. We are stewards of these taxpayer dollars. We need to do everything we can to exhibit that stewardship. We're not perfect. We've been going there, and every year, even Doug, we've been talking in the budget process, every year we're getting a little better. The budget process has been crazy hard, and I'll say it, not that you guys don't need to hear it again, but the Tyler project was a nightmare. And it has taken us my entire time in office to try to get us through that. We all have dealt with it. It's been a challenge, but each year we're getting better. I'm seeing more detail. We're able to step in and use some new functionality that we haven't been able to use. We're doing good, and we're at the end of that contract where we can have a discussion on that at any time if we had. Yeah, so we're happy to answer any questions. But stewardship is important. Stewardship is not just about use of money, it's use of time, it's resources, and so we're mindful of that in every regard. We do appreciate, though, council's responsibility is budget. My job is that we present to you something clear and understandable. If that isn't the case, boy, reach out and ask. I'm trying to think, I think this is our last workshop, but we may be doing one more, Doug, and that was the tax workshop. I don't know if that one got confirmed or not. The one that we were going to do, Alan Dorn's Fest.
Oh, yes, I'll confirm it. I think it was,
Okay, was that a Wednesday morning coming up? So we're wanting to do one more, and that is bringing in Alan Dorn's Fest and have him present to council so we really understand tax and the state tax and how that's all working. I tell you what, it's very complex what Doug is working with each year. He's constantly, at this time of year, working with the county because there's a guess on budget. The way that our tax laws are and the way some things the legislature put in place that make it very difficult to budget because we're estimating we don't have actuals till after we approve the budget. So the other thing I wanted to mention that we didn't really touch on too heavily was this Rick Kennedy in this new position in procurement and risk management. I'm really excited about this because the procurement side is very important. His initial focus is on the RFPs that we're issuing, standardization of RFPs, the contracting. He's going to serve as a liaison to legal to ensure that it's dotting every I and crossing every T. We do a lot of contracts through the city to make sure that they are archived in the right places. And the over $50,000 ones are pretty easy because they come to city council and they get the signing process. But it's the ones that are residing in departments that we never see, that I don't even see. Those are the ones that we're getting a handle on even more. So we're continually working to improve our processes, looking at policies. We're not done yet. There's still a lot more work to be done, but we're working hard. And to me, that's part of stewardship, stewarding the dollars. So that's all I'm going to say. But do you have questions or further discussion you want regarding the budget as it comes forward? Yes.
Mayor, last year we asked specifically to have the staff CEs broken out based on what was needed for their positions and then what was actually just something that they maybe wanted to attend. Is that going to be in our budget this year?
Travel and training. So Doug can speak to that. He has reduced our travel and training. I don't remember the number considerably. I don't know if we have it at that level of detail, because that really gets into the operational side, and it is a tremendous amount of work. We do have it in the detail.
Yep.
So when you, and you will have a copy of the detail in the back of your book, and we've talked through them. So in the back of your book, you're going to see that detail and travel and training for every department of what they're attending.
So it may not be exactly what you're, wow, that's loud. What you're looking, we'll try and make accommodations there, but let me tell you the overall scope. 2 years ago, our budget for travel and training was $1.4 million. That was the initial meeting. Then we came back and retooled and cut that down by $167,000. This year's total travel and training budget is down to $970,000. So we've made significant improvements in what we're allowing for travel and training, what's being asked for. So we're down over $400,000 in 2 years. So significant effort.
Will we
again,
know what's required for their positions? Because if it's an engineer, we don't
requirement.
know what they
The
need
certifications,
versus.
and you know
Yeah.
what? I don't know that we've done that.
I don't
Doug,
think we have.
can go back.
Yeah, we can go back and try and
And
add
ask
that.
every department to separate
Yeah.
out the certifications
It just helps
versus-
us so that we know when we're looking at it, we know that we're not trying to take something that they're
Yeah,
required for their position.
That's a good point, a very, very good point. The amount of decrease in travel we've made on it may make that less of an onerous task because there's much fewer travel requests going on, that we've trimmed it back, so it may make it a little easier to go through because you have fewer to choose from.
The difficulty is, and I'm just going to be really candid on this, if council goes into that operational side and starts saying, well, we don't want you to go to that conference or this conference, that's operational. And there are certain things that you may not understand, but they're important. And so we talk through those. Should economic development be going to that trip? Well, it's hard to understand that trip, but let's say a trip last week that goes to Las Vegas, well, that's where In-N-Out Burger came in, that's where District 208, that's in NDC, where they are, and looking at filling the tenants into those buildings, that's where those meetings are happening. There are meetings from people from Boise, but the meetings are happening there because that's where everyone is. That would take forever to try to explain all of those to council. And so then the other one, for example, Tom Points. Tom Points has a little bit higher travel right now. He's setting and representing the city of Nampa on some boards, and it takes time to go to those regional meetings. But the learnings that are happening from those meetings are significant, and the presentations we're making. It's difficult to quantify it, but the discussion that I have with every single department is, first of all, how many people are going? There are times you need 2 people going. There's other times you just need 1 person going. Are they coming back? Are they accountable to train the trainer piece, right? Are they accountable to come back and share the information? We talk very specifically. Sometimes you see trips that they're golfing. It's a vacation, right? But it's on the city dollar. We don't do that. We have very specific discussions around that. There needs to be a purpose in it. But if we were to get down to that level at the city in the budget process, it would be a long budget. So I understand what you're saying, and I totally respect it. I just want you to know that those are discussions I'm having with this team, because that's stewardship, right? Are we wasting tax dollars going on trips that are unneeded trips? There is something to be said for the learnings that we get. I travel like almost zero. In fact, I think AIC, going to the annual AIC meeting here in Boise is the only thing I think I've done for a couple of years since the first year. I really should be doing a little bit more, but I'm also very, very mindful. Some of the national meetings, the sessions, as I looked at it, right, some of the meetings that I could be going to, the sessions are not representative of what we're talking about in our local community. So it's not really worth it. But our relationship's important to build so that you have learnings from other municipalities, and that's what a lot of these meetings are, or trainings. Are those important? They are important. It's hard to balance it sometimes, but I just want not only council, but I want our community to know that we're mindful of it, very mindful of it. But it is a high budget. And one of the breakdowns that we need to do, Doug, is the training from the enterprise versus Gen Gov. Right, what are the property taxpayers paying for versus what are out of enterprise funds that are
And we
water,
have that.
wastewater?
We have
Right,
that.
We'll
We can
separate that
also-
out for you.
We can also go back and have keep in mind, when I say the travel and training budget, training is a significant portion of that budget, and out of that, police has the most significant amount of training costs in the city, and most of that is not travel, because you want your police trained. So when we say $900,000, a very small amount of that is travel and conferences. The bigger portion is the training portion, and most of the training takes place locally. But out of those places that are conferences and training, on the conferences, we can probably identify which ones are required for certification. The training will be more broad-based. Some of the training is, for instance, how do I teach my my customer service reps in utility billing to de-escalate when you have an angry customer. So it's not certification, but it's training on how to best serve the city and de-escalate problems so nobody becomes out of control. Because when you talk about people's money, you get a very sensitive topic. So some of the trainings we can identify as being where they belong, and some are more broad-based in leadership training.
Our leadership training budget, we have invested more this last year. But what the offset of the investment into training is that you're growing future leaders. You're helping them better lead their teams. You're reducing liability because of errors in leadership. And so if we don't train, so that's the nuance in it.
Yep.
And I want you to know that I'm very, very mindful of it, and we're shifting our training dollars to ensure the outcome that we need. But Natalie, thank you so much, and Councilman Jengula, I
Good
should
question.
say. Thank you. They're really good questions, and they're excellent questions, so thank you.
Mayor Kling? Yes, okay, so I have two issues. One, we've got to fix HR's phone system. It is terrible. And I've tried to call Isabel, and it disconnected me, and sometimes you can't even get to her, right? So, Butch? Thank you, sir. Okay, so, and I think you and Doug just kind of briefly mentioned it regarding the taxes we're purported to have received this year. Since the state legislature gave us a discount last year in our property taxes, what are you looking at this year? Are we increasing? No, are we going to receive the same amount of taxes, or are we looking for assessed value increasing? That's going to give our budget a little more than what we anticipated.
Well, I don't believe the property tax rebate that came from the state is not in effect this year. Is that correct, Doug?
If you're talking about 292, which is the property tax reduction, the way that one works is it's behind the scenes. The city doesn't touch that. It's all done by the state and the county. So our taxes come to us virtually unchanged, but the state funds portion of the property tax that's our reduction goes directly to the county, and then they funnel it back as needed. So it doesn't have any impact to us directly.
So we're going to be flatlined as far as we did
It's flat,
last?
no change.
No change.
From that aspect, no change.
I'm not sure, Doug, because I think we had a tax from the state, a reduction we saw in our property taxes
Exactly.
locally
Yes.
last year.
Right.
And for many, it was about $300
Right.
savings.
That's what
I
I'm
don't know
referring
that
to.
we're going to see that this year. I
Oh,
think
right.
that we're going
Now,
to go
in-
back, which people will feel like
You're
is an
correct.
increase
Well, I
because we
understand-
don't have the
Okay,
rebate.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, from that aspect, yes. We're budgeting as if it's not going to change, but we don't know that answer yet. So the taxes to the city won't change, but it's possible that the rebate to the individuals might, and that's based on
Yeah.
state control.
Out of
not
our
city.
control.
Yeah.
Right, but that would be an increase to the city,
Well, to the taxpayers, but
We won't get any more
we
money.
won't get into that.
We don't get any of it. When the
Okay.
state is doing that, we get zero. The only
Okay.
fluctuation, and it's interesting to look, like in our tax assessments and stuff, if you look at our taxes, if you guys just recently got your tax assessments, you'll see in there, the city, 3%. I mean, it's just 3%. Nope, it's up 3%. And and the costs to the citizens for 3% is, I don't remember how much that is per household, but it isn't significant at all.
Well, and
But
what I want to be careful
does
with
matter.
is that we're going to have to pay for last year and this year in the new 2025.
Well,
It doesn't actually work that way.
No. It
doesn't?
It doesn't. There's not, no. For the city, it's just a 3% flat that is consistent, just consistent. Doug?
yeah. But you've touched on the question that I need more clarity on, and I'm trying to figure out how to get it from the state. Pulling information out of the state since Luna went live has been really difficult. But I look at their reporting monthly on their collections and their distributions of revenues. And they have a line on there called state sales tax, property tax relief line. That line says the collections are up from the prior year. Now, what that means, I don't know in terms of what's distributed back to the city, but I need to find a way to get a connection with them and say, tell me how to interpret this line, what does it mean?
Yeah. It's complex. That's exactly right. It is confusing. And I realize your mic wasn't on, so not everybody heard your question. I am so sorry
I'm
because
sorry.
I'm hearing it, but
sorry.
hopefully that on the audio, it makes sense. So, it is 9 o'clock on the dot. Are there any further questions? Council, you have had a lot of extra meetings. I just want to say thank you so much for your commitment because you've had to sit through a lot of extra meetings this year. And so afterwards, you can let us know if it was beneficial, if it wasn't beneficial. We're just trying to give you the most information. Natalie, thank you for your reminder that we need to provide you, make sure that breakdown is there. Not just you, but everybody, right? But thank you for that reminder. We'll get it. And so I don't know if you'll have all the detail, but we're happy to answer any questions too. So, okay, I think we're done. Thank you. Hey, staff, great job. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Vanessa, thank you for the